Hey friends, it's Lauren Taylor. Thank you so much for joining me in my craft room today for a Trinity Stamps video. I'm going to be sharing 3 different card ideas using the Retro Snowflake Wrap background stamp. This is a 6x6 background stamp, and we're going to create 3 different background combinations today. And first of all, let me say I am so sorry that my Misty is that dirty. I did not realize until I was editing that I need to clean my Misty door. So that is my Misty, not the stamp. So I have a sheet of white cardstock and I'm going to do some embossing on it. So I am using an anti-static powder tool and I grabbed an embossing ink that also apparently I need to look at because I think I stained it with a stamp. As you can see, it kind of left a gray residue, but not a big deal for the purpose of this card because I'm going to be embossing with a silver embossing powder. This is Chrome Ultrafine powder from Ink on 3, and I'm going to completely cover my stamped panel, again that was with an embossing ink, with this silver embossing powder and use my heat gun on its high setting to melt that embossing powder down and create a beautiful silver background on some mixed media cardstock. And I'm going to use that background for an emboss resist technique a little bit later. My second background is on the blue glossy cardstock from Trinity Stamps, and I stamped it again after I die cut it with the Modern Embossed Window Panel #1 die, and this time I am embossing with white inks, or white embossing powder. So I used my same clear embossing ink, and then instead of using silver, this time I used white, and I just love that white vibrancy on that darker blue glossy cardstock. My third background is going to be a sheet from the Love Danny 6x6 paper collection, and this time I cut it with the new Modern Embossed Window Panel #3, and for this one I am using Gold Rush Ultrafine Embossing Powder from Ink on 3. All 3 powders I'm using today are Ink on 3 powders. So here are all 3 of my backgrounds. You can see I have my 2 that are die cut, and I'm going to set those aside because I'm going to use those for interactive projects. And now let's work on the embossed resist technique by adding some ink to my silver stamped background. I'm going to just grab a mat. It's a little bit sticky just to help me with ink blending. And I'm using my wonderful little blending Buddy Ink blending brush tools. These are the best. I have 2 of each color because I use one with oxides and one with dye-based inks. And I am ink blending on 3 different distress oxides. So I started with Twisted Citron in one corner. I added spun sugar in the other corner, and then along the middle I used salvage patina. And once I was done ink blending, I'm just grabbing a microfiber cloth to wipe off the ink that is left over on the embossed part of my background. So that silver is really popping off on the background. Next, I'm going to do quite a bit of hot foiling. I'm trying to do everything kind of at once so I can use the same tools over and over again, and then we'll move into assembling the cards. And I'm hot foiling first the brand new Geometric Trees cut and foil die set. I did all 3 trees and the little star in a gold, well, it's actually a speckled aura glimmer hot foil, but it's this golden like rainbow shiny hot foil from Spellbinders. It's beautiful. And I did that on some green cardstock, and I will die cut the trees a little later, and that star is going to be the background opening of my red striped background that we created. So I did all my foil cutting off camera, but I thought, you know what, let me show some of my foil cutting on the next one. So I'm going to be using the Frosty Foiled Flakes foil and cut die set for both of the remaining cards for this video. And for the first one, I am embossing, or not embossing, I am foiling with silver glimmer hot foil from Spellbinders. And I'm going to be doing that on some white cardstock. So I have a self-healing mat here. I'm measuring out how much foil I need, and I'm just using a rotary cutter to cut that foil down. Now that will be my little sandwich of layers that will go through my, or not through, but on my Glimmer hot foil machine. And then here you can see I'm running it through my Platinum 6 to create that foil impression on my cardstock. And here is what my silver flakes look like. I had a little bit of overfoiling, but honestly, it's not that big of a deal. The way I layer my card together, you won't see it, but you could take a sand eraser and remove that excess foil. And then for the last card, I did hot foiling the same snowflakes on black cardstock, and I used the opaque white glimmer hot foil roll for those. So I'm going to go ahead and do all of my die cutting off camera, and I'm going to do my sentiments as well. I really like Let It Snow, Snowflake Kisses, and Holiday Hugs. These are all from the set Mini Winter Greetings. I love that these dies have such a beautiful tiny little look, but then on the shadow die that comes with each sentiment, it really will pop off your card. So let's go ahead and start building our first card. So I'm going to do a light up card for my red and green and gold, and I'm going to be using a halo light. The Modern Embossed Window panel number 3 die is perfect for Pear Blossom Press halo lights. The halo light fits like perfect, chef's kiss, behind that opening for the Modern Embossed panel number 3. So I'm going to use this background for my light up card. I have my halo light, and this comes in a pack of 2 halo lights with 4 one lights, and it has batteries in there as well. So everything you need is right in that little pack, and Trinity Stamps does sell this combo pack. I'm going to work on now the layout of my card so I know exactly where my background star needs to be and where I need to place my halo light. So I know that I want my star to be centered horizontally, but it will be a little bit higher up in the circle vertically. So that way it will fit nicely above that center tree. So I'm going to grab a pencil and I'm going to very lightly trace the circle cutout from my background. And I do forget to actually erase this. I realized that later as I was editing, but I went very, very light, so you can't see it. But if you accidentally go a little light before you assemble your card together, just grab an eraser and erase that line. But as you can see, you could, I don't even think you could see it right now on camera. And I just trimmed around, leaving a good hefty border so that way you won't see the edge of my green cardstock when I assemble my card together. And then I'm going to use a piece of repositionable tape to hold that circle in place behind my background. I'm going to grab my glue and I'm going to add glue to the green cardstock, making sure not to get any on my repositionable tape. And then I'm going to pretend like I am gluing my card front to my card base. Now I did end up accidentally making it go a little bit too far to the left, so that's why I'm using liquid glue. It gives me a chance to move that to the right spot, take out my repositionable tape, and make sure that I like the placement before I move forward. Next step is to add the halo light, and I grabbed some 1/8 of an inch adhesive to go completely around the circle part of my halo, the halo part. And then I grabbed my 1/4 inch roll to add a couple strips on the battery base part of the halo light. I peeled off all of the release paper, and then using that pencil as a guide, I added my halo light to my card base. I grabbed my cover to make sure that I liked the placement again, and once I was happy, I really pressed down on my halo light to my card base. To adhere my red striped and embossed cover plate die cut, I'm going to grab Pear Blossoms Press foam adhesive. This is called the world's best foam tape. And I'm using it because I know that it will fit perfectly with my halo light. Pear Blossom Press designed this tape so that way you know all of the Pear Blossom Press lights will definitely fit, and there's plenty of room to press the little button to turn on the light. And it's also repositionable, so in case I completely messed up, I can peel it off and put it back, and then it will actually secure and be stuck for good, with over the next few hours. So now that my cover is now placed on top, you see the light will shine through just perfectly. I'm going to start gluing the pieces of the trees and everything to the front of my card. So I'm just doing a little, tree trio on the front of my card, making sure that the tree that I place in the middle is going to fit nicely under my star. So I'm just using that front tree as a guide to make sure I place my left and right trees evenly. And I'm also using the stripes on my background to make sure they're straight. And then I will add in my last tree. I'm not going to add any adhesive where it will overlap the opening of my modern embossed die in the background. And I went ahead and glued that final tree. And I wanted to make sure it was nice and secure. It was kind of peeling up where the circle was. So I'm going to bring in my reversible tweezers just to hold the edge there, the red cardstock to the green cardstock, and make sure that is nice and glued down and secured while I work on adding my sentiments together. Now I'm going to quickly skip over this part because when I worked on gluing my sentiment pieces together in the next card, I found a very easy way to glue them together. So I don't want you to see me struggling gluing my holiday hugs together. But I will show you in the next card what I did. Now, before I finish off this card, I want to make sure my card receiver knows that there's something special about it. So I grabbed the die set for the Paper Crafting Magic stamp, so just the coordinating dies, and I die cut out a little star that I used for die cutting out my sentiment, the same gold cardstock, and I added that where the button is for the halo light. So my sentiment, I'm just going to glue that to the top of my card above the opening, just using some liquid adhesive. And I die cut my holiday hugs words out of some gold cardstock that I thought matched the hot foil really well. And then the background, the shadow part of my sentiment was die cut from a red cardstock that I thought matched the red striped background really well. And you can see how fun this card is. All of the shine, it's super duper shiny, and I love that it lights up. It just makes my shiny glittery heart so happy. Okay, so let's move on to the second card, and this is going to be a shaker card, but I want to talk about the sentiment. So I usually apply whatever cardstock I'm using for the letters onto one of my Trinity Stamps rip and stick adhesive sheets. So that way the little letters are much easier to apply to the shadow die. Now I've slowed this down a little bit. That's why it looks like I'm moving in slow motion because I went kind of fast and I want to explain it to you while I'm showing you. But I noticed that because my letters are stuck inside of the word dies, but there's glue already on them because that cardstock has that rip and stick sheet behind it. I center the word die to my shadow die cut, and I use my pickup stick tool, the pokey side, and I press through the holes to release those letters and press those pieces of cardstock onto the shadow die. And I also give it a pretty good squeeze. You'll see here, I will pick it up and I will squeeze that cardstock onto the die and then slowly pull away the die, and my letters are attached. I didn't have to go through and add one at a time on that little, shadow die with those intricate letters, and I am so happy that I tried it and it worked. And you'll see me do it again on the last card. Okay, so let's jump back into the assembly. I grabbed a piece of leftover of the glossy blue cardstock that I used to cut my front panel that we did our white embossing on, and that's going to be the back side of my shaker. I really wanted that blue to come through because you don't really see a lot of it on my embossed panel. So that blue is going to be the back of my shaker. I also have a piece of acetate, and I'm cutting 2 squares that I know will fit behind that circular opening. And we're going to attach one of those pieces of acetate to the back side of our panel that has, again, the retro snowflake wrap embossed on it. So I put some adhesive on all 4 sides, peeled off the release paper, and attached that. Now to create the shaker well, I am grabbing Trinity Stamps double-sided foam adhesive strips, and I peeled off both sides of the release paper, and that just allows me to be able to turn and curve these foam adhesive strips with ease. So I added one strip around my circle, and then I'm adding a second strip, making sure to really butt up those two foam adhesive strips together because I don't want any of my shaker bits escaping. And then I filled up the rest of my back of my panel with that same foam adhesive. I also have that second panel of acetate because I'm going to enclose my shaker before I glue my front panel to my card base. And for my shaker bits, I'm using 4 different embellishment mixes from Trinity Stamps. I'm doing the Blue Sky Sparkle Spots, which are my favorite. I'm also using Frosty Snowflakes, Glacier Iridescent Pearl Confetti, and Winter Sky Light Blue Snowflakes, and it made such a fun and beautiful shaker mix for this card. I went ahead and put them inside of the well that I created, and I have this second piece of acetate that I'm going to attach. So I'm removing any of the foam adhesive release paper that I need to where this acetate window will close up on. And then I also added a little bit of adhesive to the back side of my shaker panel. So the adhesive side is facing me just to help glue that acetate down to my card base. I peeled off all the rest of the foam tape or the foam adhesive release paper, and I'm gluing this shaker panel down to my card base. And there you can see how fun and happy all of those snowflakes and blue colored sequins are inside of my shaker window. Now for decorating the rest of my card, I'm grabbing my foiled snowflakes and I'm just going to place them around, and I'm going to kind of skip this part because it took me a little while to figure out how I wanted my snowflakes to look. And once I was happy with the layout, I didn't even use all of them. I will start gluing them down. So I will just pick one snowflake up at a time, and I'm using liquid adhesive to attach these to the front of my card. That way, if I'm not thrilled with the placement, the liquid adhesive just gives me a little bit of wiggle room. And after I place all of my pieces down, I even overlap some of them so that will cover some of the extra foiling I had. You can't even see it. I'm going to grab some large scissors and I'm going to trim off any excess that's hanging off the sides of my card. So I want to make sure they are glued and attached before I do this in case any of those snowflakes move. And then again, just using some large scissors to trim off the excess. Once that's done, I will attach my sentiment. I already have plenty of dimension on this card because of the foam adhesive. So just like for the first card that I did, I'm going to go ahead and glue my sentiment down with just liquid glue. I'm using my grid here on my desk to help me make sure my sentiment is centered and even. And then I will start with the "it" from Let It Snow, since that will be technically in the middle of my words. It's the middle word. And then I will glue on "let" and "snow" as well. So that will finish off my second card, a second interactive card. I'd love to know in the comments if you like making light up cards and shaker cards, or if you tend to just, I don't want to say just make a normal card because that sounds so sad when it's just as beautiful and amazing, but I'd love to know if you like making interactive Christmas cards in the comments. So leave a comment before you leave today. And here is a close-up look at my fun and beautiful blue, white, and silver shaker card, which are my favorite colors to use for Christmas. For our final card, we're going non-traditional with colors. We had our red, green, and gold, our blue, white, and silver, and now we're doing more pastel, fun Christmas colors with black. So I have my background sheet, and just like last time, I played around with my snowflakes and kind of determined a layout. And then you'll see here again, I'm going to apply my sentiment to the shadow. So I lined up my die to the shadow die cut, and I'm poking through each of those letters with the little release holes on the back side of the die, really pressing to make sure that adhesive touches my black cardstock, and then slowly pull away the die. And I just love this. I don't know if it's because the cardstock I'm using for all of my sentiments are a little bit thicker than your average cardstock, because I am using metallics to be my sentiment die cuts. And it is a little bit thicker. But I am going to try this again with thinner cardstock. But let me know in the comments if you've done this before. I feel like I just stumbled upon something miraculous and genius. But let me know if you've totally done this before and I'm just overly excited to have figured it out. And if it works with thinner cardstocks. I think because I also have that adhesive sheet behind it, it does, thicken it a little bit. But I am so happy that this was so easy. And now I can finish off the layout for my card now that my sentiment is ready. And once I'm happy with how many snowflakes I have and the placement, we'll go ahead and glue everything down. So just like I did with the last card, I'm using liquid adhesive to glue down my foiled snowflakes around the card. And I will trim off the extra, again, just like I did last time, so my card will fit on the front of my A2 card base. And once that's done, I will use my liquid adhesive again to glue this panel down to my A2 card base. If you saw me a little bit earlier, I folded all of these with my ergonomic folding craft tool, which is one of my favorite tools from Trinity Stamps, along with the pickup stick tool. And I will center that to my card base. Now, I don't have any dimension on this card because there's nothing interactive about it, so I will grab some foam adhesive for my sentiment. These are just some foam squares from scrapbook.com. I like the thickness of them, so I went ahead and just put foam adhesive behind both parts of my sentiment. And then I'm using the grid on my mat to try to get those sentiments centered and straight. And I think Snowflake Kisses is such a fun little sentiment. I hope you like it as much as I do. Here is a close-up of our last card we're making for today's video. And I just love these non-traditional colors. Let me know what your favorite color combination for your Christmas cards are in the comments. So let's take one more final look at all of the cards. We have our Let It Snow Snowflake Shaker card, our Holiday Hugs Christmas Tree Light Up card, and our non-traditional colored Snowflake Kisses Christmas card. Again, let me know in the comments which one is your favorite. I think mine's the light up card. I just absolutely love that the halo light fits so perfectly in that opening. But I'm also a fan of those pastel, non-traditional colors. But let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll click like, and if you're new here, I hope you'll subscribe and come back. As always, you can find everything I use down below in the description box. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Bye!